Sometimes we are troubled. And so let us come into this community. Let us gather the Spirit. Let us harvest our power. Let us gather in sympathy, gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate what we can do together. If you will join us in singing hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit.
And welcome to All Souls Church Unitarian. My name is Saul Ujoa, and my pronouns are they, them, and he, him. We're here this morning because we're a people who believe in connection, even when it's messy or complicated. We gather not because we have all of life's secrets figured out, but because we're curious and brave enough to keep asking questions about love, the ways we shape one another's lives, and belonging. So whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever paths brought you here, you are welcome in this space. All genders, sexualities, abilities, ages, races, creeds, and religions are embraced to all souls. We are an inclusive, justice-seeking community where we support one another and nurture spiritual growth as we build the beloved community together. And this week, we are the host congregation for the Preaching Along the Potomac series, engaging UU congregations across the DMV. So welcome to those visitors who are joining us in person or virtually. I turn your connection now to the connection card, not in your order of service, but you got when you came to the doors this morning. Each week, the connection card offers new opportunities for us to stay connected with each other. We want to know how you're doing, support your engagement with this community, and make communicating with us easier for you. We particularly appreciate visitors filling in your mailing address so we can send you a gift. And first-time visitors, if you bring your connection card to the welcome table during coffee hour in Pierce Hall, across the hall and to my left, you will receive a gift. So one card for 2 gifts. We're so happy you joined us here today. Let us pause today to focus on solidarity with the Piscataway people, the original sovereign stewards and dispossessed inhabitants of this land, and the enslaved Africans whose stolen labor built and shaped this region that some call Washington, D.C. The city's monuments and marble halls often conceal truths of land stolen, lives exploited, and communities erased. We acknowledge that the very founding of the United States, including by those hailed as its heroes, was intertwined with colonialism, slavery, ethnic cleansing, and genocide, legacies that live on in our political and social structures today. But acknowledgement alone cannot satisfy the demands of justice, and rooted in the beloved community and our 8th principle, we commit ourselves to truth-telling, to upholding the sovereignty and dignity of Indigenous nations and Black communities, and to working in solidarity with all to continue resisting dispossession and oppression. May our collective memory guide our collective action, and may we never cease working for a city and a world where the dignity and freedom of all people are fully recognized. This congregation, grounded in our values and commitment to enduring justice, knows that words alone are not enough to fulfill our promises to one another. And speaking our covenant each Sunday is a sacred promise, a declaration of who we strive to be together. With courage and solidarity, please rise in body or in spirit to speak our Sunday covenant. Love is the spirit of our people, and service is our call to build the beloved community, to seek fuller truths in love, to dwell together in peace, to offer aid and affirmation, and to tend to our mutual well-being. This is our covenant. Now please stay standing, because now is the time to greet one another.
I'm going to invite you to continue those conversations during coffee hour, which because of air conditioning will be in Reeve Lobby. And I'm going to invite forward Megan and Arthur to come up for their child's dedication. And I'm going to invite my young friends to come forward for front row seats to the child dedication because you have a very important role to play. Perfect sleepy timing. All right. Good morning. You look very cute. Megan, will you share with us the name of your wonderful son and briefly about the meaning of his name if you choose?
This is Sylvan St. Joseph Calvert Von Lee. He's got an epic name. And his name is actually a name that was a little bit inspired by his sister's name, who is Ayla, A-Y-L-A. And we like that the names match, and they both have nature-inspired meanings. And his name means protector of the forest.
Sylvan, welcome. All right, I'm going to invite you to look and lean into your family right now. Your parents and your big sister and your aunt and uncle and grandparents are online because love can reach so far and still reach us. You come from this love. You are held by these loves. This is your first world, and may you know it as blessed. Now, look at the congregation. Whoa. You see all these people? Yeah. Your parents love these people. Hi. And from us, you will mean what it learns to love, not in a narrow way, but in a big, wide way. And you will learn what it means to be loved freely. Now, these children, they're your special friends. Friends, will you welcome Sylvan with a wave? Will you treat Sylvan with kindness and smile at him when you see him? What do you say? Yes. Thank you, dear ones. So we are gathered here not only to welcome you, but to dedicate ourselves to you. Megan and Arthur, you are already dedicated to Sylvan, this awesome, charming, cuddly child who easily brings a smile to your face. You hope that he practices compassion with others and with himself, and that he's a deep and mutual connection with nature, that he strives his best, and he knows what family is in its most expansive of terms. We hope that growing up at All Souls nurtures his curiosity, generosity, and trust in community. Megan and Arthur, do you promise to raise Sylvan to the best of your abilities, to listen as well as to teach, to balance his safety with his freedom to explore, to nurture in him a sense of wonder and awe for the world around him? If so, say, I do.
I do.
Ayla, we have a special role for you. You want to take the microphone? All right, now Ayla, being a big sister is special. I know because I have big sisters. And you have a special role to play in helping Sylvan grow. From you, he can really learn what it means to be a kid, a kind kid, a patient kid, a loving kid. And you know what? He might even become your best friend, maybe. But even if not, you will need to stick together. So do you promise to hold hands and stick together? If so, say yes.
Into the microphone.
Yes.
Everyone gathered here today is the village that surrounds this family with love and strength. Today we commit ourselves to the wondrous tasks of nurturing,
this child. Please turn your attention to the screen as we do this responsive reading by Reverend Ron Eller Isaacs. It is our faith that each child born is one more Redeemer. Are you ready to dedicate yourselves to Sylvan? Eileen is here today. Are you ready to dedicate yourselves to Sylvan? And Father. Will you strive to love and cherish him in times of struggle as well as gladness? We will love and cherish him always. We acknowledge the divine spark within each child. Sylvan, we have dedicated ourselves to you, which is the most important blessing we have to offer. But I seal it with this ritual. We rub dirt on your feet so you may feel a deep connectedness to the wondrous world and to this sacred place. May your feet feel grounded in the knowledge that you always belong. May your lips speak the words of kindness. Oh.
Not always easy.
As you experience the breath of life, may you remember that you're fundamentally not an individual, but part of an interdependent whole. Others will count on you, just as you will depend on others. May the light of truth call you as a reflective, meaning-making person. And may your life unfold with beauty as the rose does. Let us celebrate Sylvan and his family. Let us hold this joy in our heart as we sing Sia Hamba, as our youth go to their RE classes following Miss Ebony, and the middle school youth group is also meeting today as well. Let us sing Sia Hamba together.
Good morning, All Souls. My name is Ebony C. Peace. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a lay community minister, and I am delighted to serve as your liturgist this morning. I invite you to pull out your connection card that we talked about earlier this morning, and as you hear of an upcoming opportunity, you can express your interest with a check mark on this form. You can also share how you're doing and ask for pastoral care, either from a minister or one of our pastoral associates. A big shout out and thank you to all who participated in the celebration of civic service this past Saturday. The goal of the event was to celebrate and honor federal workers, contractors, and partner organizations, especially as so much of our federal and federal adjacent workforce has been dismantled. And as roughly 1,300 State Department employees were dismissed on Friday, walked out of their jobs the very same day. Solidarity through community will be our salvation. Another announcement, please RSVP for our July 24th Exploring UU membership class. And this class is your space to learn about Unitarian and Universalist history, theology, governance, and more. Bring your questions and curiosity to the conversation. And you may have noticed that we do not have printed order of services this morning. Who noticed that? Noticed that? Yeah, we don't have them. What we do have is the plan to streamline our communication methods to better align with our mission and available staff resources. A part of this change includes having new visual prompts on the large screens in our sanctuary and a one-page front and back announcements flyer. Please review this announcements flyer and take it home with you today. And we do very much appreciate your flexibility and open-mindedness as we try these new changes. And also, please don't forget our weekly e-news that will remain the primary place for all news regarding our All Souls community. Another announcement is that we have 2 immediate needs this morning, today. After service, we invite at least 2 people to help with our coffee hour cleanup. Do we have 2 volunteers? Can you raise your, oh yes, thank you. 2, oh yeah, we got some coffee volunteers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So please stay after service to our volunteers to help clean up in coffee hour. We also need 3 people, 3 volunteers to help us to clear out the nursery. Can I get 3 volunteers to clear out the nursery after service? Oh, not so fun as coffee hour, is it? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3. Thank you. Thank you. That means so much to us. Thank you. We also, it's not today, but we do have a need for help with our website. We are doing a complete significant overhaul of our website. And so if you have any communication or web design background, we would appreciate your help on this journey to update our website. So please be in touch with us through the connection card about the website. And then finally, our last announcement, here at All Souls, one of the primary ways that we find belonging is by building relationships and deepening our spirits in small covenant groups. These are groups of 7 to 12 people, and they meet twice a month, sometimes once. And so if you are curious or considering being a covenant group co-facilitator, please check the connection card, and we'll follow up to answer your questions and invite your support. We're looking to expand the number of our covenant groups in the fall, and so we'd like to begin to train and get some co-facilitators at this time. All right. And now, we turn to the joys and concerns of the congregation. Because of intense and ongoing pain, All Souls member Vanessa Lipinga had to have a second major back surgery on June 26. She was discharged from GWU Hospital yesterday, but she will have an intensive physical therapy rehabilitation journey ahead of her the next several weeks. we hold together and in community these joys and concerns untold and in our hearts. I invite you now to lift up out loud in the chat if you're on Zoom, or in the sacred silence of your heart, the people, places, or causes that you carry with you here today. You may speak them aloud or enter them in the chat if you are in Zoom. I invite you to pray with me. Spirit of life, help us see the light at the end of this disturbing tunnel, this house of horrors, these recent Supreme Court decisions and legislation. We mourn these choices that allow further harm and significantly reduce the federal workforce. We mourn these choices that permit the deportation of immigrants to war-ravaged South Sudan when they have no ties to South Sudan. We mourn these choices that allow medical treatment for transgender youth to be denied. We mourn these choices that increase the Immigration and Customs Enforcement's budget by 265%, many times larger than the entire federal prison system. These Supreme Court decisions, these legislation that allow parents to pull their children from public school lessons that use LGBTQ+ books so that those parents can prevent their children from being exposed to the reality that we have different views, to the reality that different people and different families exist in our multicultural, diverse society. We mourn these court decisions, legislation that support oppression, that support injustice and violence. May we embody the grace and leadership required to transform our world and ourselves. In the name of our justice warrior ancestors and in the generations not yet born, may we never give up the fight for freedom, justice, and love. Amen.
Amen. I have to begin my homily with a sigh, because as much as I love Hamilton, this just isn't a feminist musical. The women characters don't exist for their own sake the way that King George III, George Washington, or Lafayette do. Instead, they serve as a useful foil for Alexander Hamilton's becoming. There's a basic minimal threshold that a TV show or a film or a theater production has to pass called the Bechdel test to assess if you could at least in some way refer to it as a feminist work or just having a minimal level of representation in the work. One, it has to have at least 2 women in it who talk to each other about something besides a man. Hamilton fails test 3, and you will see that they sing almost entirely about Alexander Hamilton and the relationships they want with him. That said, you can't keep a good woman down. And I do love the Schuyler sisters, Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. And honestly, in that order. They are modern, strong women, surprisingly so given the time period, who sort of burst onto the scene like a Destiny Child's-esque R&B girl group. You will hear their voice. For example, after sampling and reading the newly written Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Angelica raps, and when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'm going to compel him to include women in the sequel. That's right, girlfriend. And where are they? They are in New York City, there to experience that dynamic place in its fullness, to be part of the revolutionary spirit, and yes, perhaps to find a husband, but not just any husband. Angelica is looking for a mind at work, looking for a mind at work. She is looking for a mind to match her own, and she finds it in Alexander Hamilton. Now, the musical plays up the love triangle between Alexander Hamilton and the 2 sisters, Eliza and Angelica Schuyler. And if you're tracking my messages across services, you will know that I love a delicious love triangle. I do. But this really wasn't even one. In real life, Angelica was already married when she met Alexander Hamilton. I know, like. And what is true is that while Alexander married Eliza, he had a deep connection of the mind with Angelica. They had a lifelong correspondence, not just them, but Alexander and Eliza would write to Angelica and she'd write back with them. She was included, not excluded, from that relationship. And it was important to Alexander's becoming. Angelica was someone who loved the company of powerful men for herself and loved to discuss politics and books and ideas in her country. And so she was very involved in Hamilton's career, advising him and vicariously being political through him. And it went even a layer deeper. Angelica understood who Hamilton was at his core. She sings about him never being satisfied, in part because she herself was never fully satisfied with the person that she married or her level of contribution to the world. But Angelica's lack of satisfaction related to her social limitations as a woman, whereas Hamilton had a hunger inside him that kept him ambitious and roving. His inability to be satisfied would be his downfall, and Angelica was the only character in the musical who recognized it. But let's give Eliza a shout out. She deserves one. Not so much for what we see in the musical. She sings, "I'm helpless," at least 22 times. Save me. But in real life, Eliza was incredibly resilient and claimed self-determination. In real life, she chose to marry a poor immigrant because she believed in his message. She fought hard to support her family when they were destitute, and she birthed and raised 9 kids. And when Alexander Hamilton was killed, the youngest of those kids was 2 years old. And she managed and thrived. She raised funds for the Washington Monument. She founded the first orphanage in New York, supporting hundreds of children. And she gathered up Hamilton's papers and made sure that his message and his legacy continued to be passed along. So Eliza is incredible and hardly helpless. Now, what we'll see is that Alexander can be pretty helpless without them. But in this meantime, let's give the spotlight to some incredible women.
A toast to the groom, to the bride. May you always be satisfied. I remember that night, I just might regret that night for the rest of my days. I remember those soldier boys tripping over themselves to win our praise. I remember that dream like candlelight, like a dream that you can't quite place. But Alexander, I'll never forget the first time I saw your face. I have never been the same. Intelligent eyes in a hunger-panged frame. And when you said hi, I forgot my name. Set my heart aflame, every part aflame. This is not a game.
So that is what it feels like to match wits with someone at your level. Tell me, what is the catch? It's the feeling of freedom, is seeing the light. It's Ben Franklin with the key and the kite. You see it, right? Handsome boy, does he know it? Peach fuzz, and he can't even grow it. I want to take him far away from this place, but I turn to see my sister's face, and she is helpless.
I saved every letter you wrote me. From the moment I read them, I knew you were mine. You said you were mine. I thought you were mine. Do you know what Angelica said when she'd read what you'd done? She said, you have married an Icarus. He has flown too close to the sun. You and your words obsessed with your legacy. Your sentences border on senseless, and you are paranoid in every paragraph, how they perceive you. I am watching it burn, watching it burn. You open
See, that's what I'm talking about. You just can't keep these women down. They're arguably the best characters in the play, as well as being the most important people in Alexander Hamilton's life and in the storyline of the musical. See, Lin-Manuel Miranda could have written a play that simply presented Hamilton as a great man. George Washington's right-hand man during the war and after. He was influential in drafting the Constitution, including checks and balances on power, and the adoption of the Constitution, especially with the Federalist Papers, which he largely drafted himself, or the majority of. He far exceeded the influence of contemporary Treasury secretaries, so much so that it's hard to understand how significant he was. But historians argue that he was the most powerful person in the federal government of his time. His impacts are significant and lasting. We have Washington, D.C. as a city because he traded away New York's claim to being capital in exchange for a national and unified financial system. Serving from 1789 to 1795, Hamilton was responsible for establishing the economic foundation of our then young nation. He developed a comprehensive financial plan to address the country's debts, establish a stable monetary system, and promote economic growth. Hamilton's financial policies included the creation of a national bank, an assumption of states' debts by the federal government, and the implementation of tariffs and taxes to generate federal revenue. And I'll say he didn't just solve the problems of his day, he set the United States up to be the most economically rich country and stable economy in our world's history. But in short, the musical could have ended in Act 1, where I think the songs are overall better, and with Alexander riding high. But then there's Act 2, during which we continue to see him continuing to make these rash decisions and execute really poor judgment. His list of political allies shrinks and his opponents grow. And then, as the real cincher, he has an affair for over a year with a married woman whose husband extorts money from him, blackmail for hiding the affair, and the injury done to the husband. Now, when political rivals uncover the odd financial payments related to covering up this affair, he was accused of public corruption. Does he release a short media statement of contrition and clarification, as even his contemporaries understood you should do in any kind of media market? No. He publishes a 95-page booklet detailing the entire affair and payments, including exchanges of love letters and the financial payment system with the husband. He is both the subject and the exposure of his own downfall, which is why Eliza was singing about burning his letters to her and making him sleep in the office. I mean, bare minimum, right? Because at the heart of it, and this is really the thing you need to notice here, he cared more about his public image because he thought this would exonerate it and save him more than his private image, and certainly more than the relationships he had with his family. And in trying to save his public image, he humiliated himself, he devastated his family, and he forever lost the chance of becoming president. In Act 2, he also tragically loses a beloved son who fought to defend Alexander's honor in a duel and was killed. We see a great man brought small and humbled and broken. But the play doesn't end there either. Eliza and Alexander grieved together, They healed together. They reformed their marriage, and certainly forgiveness was a large part of that. Alexander still made some terrible decisions, but he found himself and he found whom he really cared for. He got through the worst days better off because of who he had at his side. And it was not those who were there with him during his ambitious rise, but his wife and his sister-in-law, Angelica, and his surviving children. And so we see in this story that it is in our relationships and the promise of becoming and discovering oneself that we find becoming, salvation, healing, and promise. Alexander fundamentally feeded his own inner hunger into a truly unhealthy work-life balance. Now, I say this because he's not alone. And many in DC also have an unhealthy work-life balance. So, a therapist in the DC area offers this visual image of a triangle, which is your work life, and a circle, which is your life. And the therapist said, we're always here in DC trying to squish the circle into the triangle. And this, in many ways, is what Alexander Hamilton did. Who was the good wife for him to marry to move forward? How will he publicly present himself? Who are the friendships he will have? They're all driving his career. But what happens when we put the triangle of work within the circle of our life? There are these spaces around, and I urge us to fill those spaces in with relationships, because relationships can be our salvation. I want to share a story of my own life. Really, it's about my high school boyfriend. His name's Noah. And I'll say, Noah and I have always been friends since the very first moment. It was at the end of 7th grade when we were doing a science lab project, one of the last ones of the year, and I thought, I just really like this guy. I mean, as a human being, it was sort of a remarkable discovery. And I went to his bar mitzvah and then the party afterwards. He only invited 6 friends. I was the only girl. Somehow I made it into this bizarre group. And then we did theater together and French class. And at the start of 11th grade, I made a conscious decision not to try to work out my issues with the men in my family through my boyfriend relationships, and just date someone who was kind and who I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. We were one of those big high school couples. People used to say to us as we passed, have you gotten a bank account yet? And ironically, it was yes. Yeah, he was just way more trustworthy with the accounting of my money than my family was, so if I gave it to him, I knew I'd get it back. So he was my banker. Cash checks day of, it was great. And I want to say, I wasn't helpless, but in many ways, his family saved me. See, my home life was rough and not always safe. And there were these months where pretty much every week I'd call Noah at 9 or 10 or 11 at night, and he and his father would drive in from Westchester and pick me up and take me home with them. And his parents, I think, genuinely really liked me and respected me. But I think they could also tell that I was good for their son. See, he also got in some stupid trouble before we dated and for several years after we broke up. Like when he got suspended for running down the school hallway after losing everything in strip poker. Not on my watch. His mother taught me about being a working mother and the joys of a home garden. His father taught me about vision and generosity. See, his great-grandfather had this house in Hunter, New York, which is sort of like a ski town, and it's gotten really dilapidated. And he owned like a quarter of a house that he then had half of while I was with Noah. And his father said, I can't wait till I retire. Like, the pressures of working are just killing my spirit, and I want Hunter to be a place I retire to, but I need it to be more. He began to invest all their family's money into this town. And they bought a small movie theater and brought in independent films and built this job development center and then got this festival there and all these new, it was the seedlings for more economy and more people finding jobs there, and the town came back to life. And I saw the difference that someone can make when they pour themselves into making a community better. And I was his younger sister's cross-country big sister, and sometimes when I was at his house, I would just spend all my time with her. And I realized, preparing for today, that I brought their family closer together, and that was something that they needed too. His dad gave me an internship in their family's company, which I grew into a job, and I worked for over 5 years all around my schooling. And then a couple years after college, this is a longer story, but I was living with these Burmese refugees in Chiang Mai. And right before, the week before, my wallet and all my money had been pickpocketed, and so I had kind of nothing. And I got an email from my family that my one of my sisters was in the hospital. What I was told was they thought she tried to commit suicide. And I was so lost and didn't know what to do, and had no credit cards. And I called Noah Collect and said, I want you to know this happened. I'm so scared, I don't know what to do, and I'm stuck here. And he said, would you like me to buy you a plane ticket? And I said, that would be so great, thank you. So I was able to get home to my sister 2 days later. And when Noah found his person, he asked me to officiate his wedding. Very first wedding I did as a minister. And when the two families came together for the rehearsal of the wedding, and the bride's mom looked at me and said, so how do you know Noah? I, of course, said, we were 7th grade lab partners, you know? That's where we should leave things. And then his sister chimes up, she was my cross-country big sister. And his mom chimes in, and she was our second daughter. So I know how much relationships matter to the shape of our lives. So a couple of years ago, well, more like 4, my daughter got a text oh, could Sadie come out and play? And I said, Sadie, do you want to go out to the playground? Your friends are there. And she goes, well, I should finish up my homework. And I said, you're so responsible. I'm so proud of you. And then 3 minutes later, I came back and I said, I want you to know I'm proud of you for working hard. And there are some things that you really need to do, but on any given day, choose relationships over work, because they will get you further and matter more. And she said, I think I could do both. So my beloveds, our theology says that we are part of an interdependent web of existence. And that web caught me when I would fall and sustained me when I needed to be held. It is through the web of relationships that we give, receive, discover, recover, and become. May we honor these connections as sacred and holy. Amen.
So now please pull out the yellow connection card that you got when you came to the room this morning. This week, Reverend Anastasia is inviting us to reflect on the question, How have you grown because of the relationships you have? So as the music plays, you are invited to contemplate and reflect on how you would answer this question. And remember, please fill out both sides of the card. Since I first started attending All Souls in 2018, I found something pretty remarkable here. Partners and troublemakers willing to do the good, hard work of trying to make the world kinder, more conscientious, and caring. I may not yet have the decades-long relationships at All Souls that many of you hold so dear, but I'm well on my way. Young Souls, our community for young adults at All Souls in particular, has shown me how a spiritual home can support us in countless ways. From meal trains and financial assistance, to crafting circles, Socratic dialogue, and shoulders to lean on. We advise each other on policy actions, show up together at protests, and work to build the beloved community right here, piece by piece. And these relationships are intense, sometimes messy, and often meaningful. They remind me that connection isn't just about belonging, it's about commitment. It's about showing up for one another and choosing again and again and again and again to build something bigger than ourselves. And when the structures that hold us are well tended, they give back 100-fold. And so today, as we share this time together, I invite you to reflect on how you found fellow troublemakers here, people who help you live your values and bring your courage to life. I'm deeply grateful to Young Souls and to his entire congregation for making this possible. So each month, All Souls shares 50% of its offering with a social justice organization to help us live out those values. And for July, our donations will support some of the most important and courageous work happening in DC, violence interruption. Specifically, many violence interrupters end up using their own money to help the people they serve because they know that the right support at the right time can make all the difference. Our friends at the New Synagogue Project were the first congregation to support a new nonprofit doing this work called Flint, and they have asked others to join them. We invite you to give as generously as you can. If you're in the sanctuary, the ushers will be passing the plate for our offering. You can also text to All Souls by sending ASCU to 73256. If you're on Zoom, click the link in the chat, which will direct you to All Souls online giving. Your offering will now be collected and graciously received.
An original work of art eclipsed by Keith Arnold. May we know the love that holds us. May we know the love that we hold. May we hold each other as precious, for surely our relationships are what is the greatest treasure we take from this community. May we remember that as we rise and sing, Let It Be a Dance. And this is a great song to say, like, let it be a dance between us and move those hips. You might even swirl at some point. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. The good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the beat.
Thank you.